Welcome back to Cooking with Kayla D. I'm Kayla, and this is my husband Randy. My disclaimer. If you haven't done so, please like, subscribe, and remember to hit that notification bell for all the up-to-date episodes. This week we're making cinnamon rolls. Are you a fan of cinnamon rolls? Cinnamon rolls for Christmas? I sure love them. Let's get into it. Starter ingredients. You'll need 1 cup of warm water, 1 tablespoon of sugar, syrup, or honey, 1 packet of yeast, and 1/2 cup of sifted flour. First, you want to take those ingredients, your warm water. Mine is 90 degrees. I'm using organic syrup for my sugar, 1 packet of fast rising yeast, and your flour. You'll want to mix this up well until all the ingredients are combined. Once you have your ingredients combined, then you're going to want to cover this with a dishcloth and let this sit in a warm place for 10 to 15 minutes until it has bubbles. Now it's been 10 minutes. As you can see, it's got bubbles on top of it. So that means our yeast is activated and it is good. So it's time to go into the next step. For our dough ingredients, we need to add 2 cups of flour sifted, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 cup of olive oil. You could also use avocado oil if you so choose. To add our ingredients, flour first. And now that our flour is in, now we want to go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients. I am using a sweetener replacement instead of sugar. Also the salt and the oil. I like my bread a little bit sweet, so I did add a little bit of sweetener to mine. You can add some sugar to yours as well at about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup. I just used about 1/2 cup of sweetener replacement, equal 2 cups of sugar. Then you want to go ahead and mix this. You can do it by hand, but I am using my mixer, and I am going to mix this for 5 minutes. Let it get well combined. Also, while it is kneading the dough. After about 5 to 6 minutes on medium to medium high mixing, you'll want to go ahead and turn your machine off. If you're doing it by hand, you'd still be kneading about 5 to 10 minutes is what your kneading time will be. You remove the dough from your dough hook, and then we're going to go ahead and get this onto our counter and see if it is ready for rising. After you get your dough onto your counter, this is where you need to decide if you need some flour or not. Slick counters like this, granite or marble, generally will not need any flour as long as the dough isn't sticking, but I ended up needing some flour to keep it from sticking because it started to stick, as you can see there. So I'm going to stop and go ahead and get some flour and sprinkle it onto my dough. And then I'm also going to use a small amount of flour to get that dough off of my counter that was sticking by rubbing it like that. Once you do that, you can go ahead and just sprinkle a little bit more flour down, and those little pieces of dough will end up incorporating back into your loaf there. So I'm going to go ahead and keep kneading this and kneading this for another minute. I like to always knead it after I've put it in a stand mixer or a hand mixer for at least 1 minute, just to get a feel of the dough to make sure it is firm and ready to go. I seal up the bottom and flip it over. I take my thumb and I press it gently. If it comes back up, it's ready to rise. If not, I will knead it again for 1 more minute. And I will continue to do so till a little bump comes back up. Mine was ready, so I went ahead and put some olive oil into my mixing bowl and put my dough right in there. And then I went ahead and covered it with some more oil and then just moved my fingers slightly around to make sure it was completely covered so it doesn't dry out. I went ahead and covered that, and I let it rise for an hour. After an hour, I came and punched it and let it poof down. It had doubled in size, and that's exactly what we want. Now I'm going to go ahead and put some more flour onto my counter, and now we are going to knead this just a couple of times and then get to rolling this dough out to make those delicious cinnamon rolls. It is so amazing how easy it is to make homemade cinnamon rolls. After a minute of kneading, I went ahead and made sure to flour my surface and my dough, and to get my rolling pin floured as well. And now I'm going to be rolling this out, creating a rectangle shape for making my cinnamon rolls. I just like to roll my rolling pin firmly back and forth one way, and then once I get that rolled out one way, I will turn it, because that will now be my long, and then I'll start rolling out the other direction. And I continue rolling like this until I get a rectangular shape. And that is exactly what you want to do. You want to start molding it. So I squish up each side to start making it look more rectangle and get rid of those round edges. You work at it little by little, but it should only take you about 2 to 3 minutes to get this rolled out. It is actually quite simple. If some of your edges are still a little round, it is okay, because after we roll up our cinnamon rolls, we can tuck that in. If you need to add a little bit more flour, then you go ahead and do so. This is your recipe and this is your dough, and not everyone's dough will turn out the same. So if you need more moisture or more flour at any time while making your cinnamon roll dough, then you need to go ahead and add that in there and work it out. Now that I am pretty close to having that rectangular shape that I am looking for, I'm going to go ahead and start making the filling. For the filling, you're going to need 1/2 cup of softened butter, and then also 1/2 cup of brown sugar and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. Now, as you can see, I'm in a rectangular type shape, still have some rounded edges. I'm going to go ahead and slather on my butter and get that spread out. If you need to add a little bit more, go ahead. I do like it slightly thick and not completely thin. That way it can melt. I used whipped butter for mine, but you can use any type of butter. Just do not use margarine. If you use margarine, it has a lot of water and oil in it, because that's what it's made of. So it will actually cause your cinnamon rolls to be very soggy and oily, and they will not be fluffy and nice like Cinnabon or cinnamon rolls from a bakery. The key to that is using real butter. Now for me, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle on this brown sugar, but I used a brown sugar substitute because we don't use sugar in our house, regular cane sugar, but you can use regular brown sugar. I had also only had a little bit of brown sugar, so I had to make some. So I will have a link right here to the left where you can go and click on, and it will teach you a quick, easy way to make homemade brown sugar in a pinch in case you are out, and you can make that a keto sugar-free version, and you also can make it from sugar cane. I made mine from erythritol, and you also can make it with the cane sugar. So the link is right here to the left, and you can go ahead and click on that, and I will also have a link in the description area. After you get your brown sugar on your dough sprinkled out all the way towards the edges, then you're going to want to go ahead and get your cinnamon and sprinkle your cinnamon. It should start to fill in the little bit of the holes from where you had your brown sugar spread out, and that's what it should look like when you are done with your cinnamon. It should be nice and brown and smell delicious. Now when rolling this, you don't want to grab the short side, you want the long side, and you want to just slightly fold over the edge and then work it a little at a time, making a tight roll. You don't want this to be too loose. That's why I press down gently while I'm rolling. I'll roll a piece and gently press it down, and I do this until it is completely rolled up. As you can see my fingers working it here, that is the best way to ensure that your cinnamon rolls are not going to come unraveled. And that's how I do it. And no, it won't be equal all the way across, but watch, I'll show you a trick. You grab it and you kind of squish that short end in with your hand and kind of firm it up throughout the whole thing, working it in like a thick snake motion till you get it the same size. And as you can see here, it's the same size. So I got that pushed out of the way and cleaned off my countertop, and then I put some parchment paper into my baking dish, As you can see, I'm using one of those bigger cake pans. I think it's like a 9x13 or something like that. But I put my parchment paper in and I went ahead and sprayed it as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull our cinnamon roll up forward, and I'm going to be continuing to push that one end as I work with it, just to make sure that that small end got pushed in to be the same size. Now I'm going to go ahead and use scissors. You can use a knife or scissors, but you want to make sure to cut this big enough. I went for an inch. You want your cinnamon rolls to be big, like if you're going out to the bakery and having a really nice big fluffy cinnamon roll. So the best way to ensure that is to cut a 1-inch cinnamon roll. This makes a whole pan full, and it absolutely turns out delicious. So you just continue to cut your cinnamon rolls and place them in. Make sure to keep space in between each cinnamon roll as best as you can, because this recipe shows you how to make your cinnamon rolls expand and fluff up. So you definitely want to make sure you have gaps in between all your cinnamon rolls. I ended up doing this one, and it ended up turning out really great. We were amazingly surprised. As you can see, I'm arranging mine to get all of them to fit into the pan. I did not go 3 across because 3 across would not fit. So I went ahead and I did 4 across long ways with gaps in between, and then I started filling it in the in-between parts. Now, as you can see here, we did end up with 1 dozen cinnamon rolls. And now you're going to go ahead and add in your heavy whipping cream at this stage. And before you started rolling your dough, you should have preheated your oven to 375 degrees. I will make sure to add the text in for that. Go ahead and continue to pour your heavy whipping cream. I like to try to pour it around the cinnamon roll and try not to get too much of it on top. Then you're going to go ahead and take out a large piece of foil, and you want to securely cover this up and make sure that it is as airtight as you can get it. You'll want to bake this for 25 to 30 minutes, and then take the foil off. Be careful when removing the foil, and go ahead and place it back in for 5 more minutes, and then you're ready to go ahead and let it cool and ice it. Now, while our cinnamon rolls are cooling, let's make the topping. For those ingredients, you'll need 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, 1 cup of powdered sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 1/3 cup of softened cream cheese. So I'm going to get out a medium to small mixing bowl here and pour my heavy whipping cream in there. I am just going to use my hand mixer right now because I really don't feel like getting that big mixer out for this small amount. So I'm just using my hand mixer. And then I already have all of my dry ingredients in that bowl next to this bowl. I'm going to put this on low to start out and then go to medium-high until it is like a whipped cream. Once you see that it is like a whipped cream and has stiff peaks, add in your dry ingredients and your vanilla. Then you're going to go ahead and blend this up until it is combined. You'll want to do this on a higher speed so that all of your ingredients continue to keep a stiff peak within your cream mixture. This is a very light, fluffy recipe. Next, you want to go ahead and add in your cream cheese. And then at this point, you're going to go ahead and continue to mix that into this mixture. These do have to be kept in the refrigerator for storing because there is dairy in them. And then you can pull them out and you can place it in your microwave for about 25 to 30 seconds, up to a minute, depending on how powerful your microwave is. And then if you're going to be reheating them in an oven or toaster oven, then of course, just be careful not to be cooking it too long. I'm sure you could also put it in an air fryer for about 1 minute to 2 minutes and it will come out just fine. These were like oven fresh. We were eating on these for over a week, and we also shared with our neighbor. And we just microwaved ours for 1 minute is what it took in our microwave, and they turned out so delicious. It was like they were fresh out of the oven. But it's a lighter way to have it. Now, if you want to go ahead and use a regular icing, you can do that. If you like it sweeter or even a caramel and pecan topping, that is fine as well. But these turned out so good and so delicious. Literally tasted just like Cinnabon. So after you get your icing spread on, you'll go ahead and pull one of your cinnamon rolls out. I went ahead and got one out to share with my husband just so we could go ahead and show you the inside of how fluffy that was and how they expanded so perfectly with a heavy whipping cream. See how it filled up the entire pan perfectly? And look how fluffy that is inside. Those cinnamon rolls were absolutely amazing, and we hope that you enjoy this recipe. And as always, here are some beautiful photos from here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This is a beautiful photo taken of the sunrise over the ocean. And then another beautiful photo of the shrimp boat fishing right off of the beach there at midday. It was so nice to watch the fish boat with all of the birds flying around. And then here's another fisherman that came into the area, and he was fishing, and all the birds were enjoying all that bait. They were sure looking for a scrumptious meal.
Every good and perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. James 1:17.
And as always, thank you for being here on Cooking with Kayla D. Stay in that kitchen and keep on cooking, and God bless. To subscribe to our channel, click the icon here to the left, and for more recipes, the one to the right.